Hello, Craptacklers. You are now flipping over to the B-side.
Hello and welcome to Cinema Craptacklers presents B-Sides, where we dig through the streaming pile of crap that the internet has to offer to find that rare gem. If you're liking the show, give us 5 stars on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to us. It really helps get the Craptacklers word out there. And before we start with today's episode, I just want to go back to our last episode, I Know Who Killed Me, and make a small correction. In the episode, we were making a lot of fun of Lindsay Lohan's age. We kept referring to her as 35, and I was like, I wonder how old she was when she did that. Guys, she was 20 years old when she made that movie.
Shut your mouth.
I cannot shut my mouth of the truth.
She was not.
She
really?
was 20?
Yeah, because she was born in, 86? This was filmed in 2006 or 2007, so she was 2021.
Oh my God, she looked like she was 77.
No, poor Lindsay she looked rough. Like, literally, I was like, why are they letting this 35-year-old being a high school? Oh, guys, that's even sadder.
Like, there's sun
She is
damage.
36 today. Or not 36 today, like 35, 36.
Yeah, she's
Yeah, there's sun damage, and then there's whatever happened to Lindsay Lohan's skin. And I don't
That's
know
life
what it
damage.
is. I assume it's
like-
like a radiation poisoning.
it's called alcohol poisoning.
It's 50 years of life in a 10-year career.
Wow.
Yeah.
Poor Lindsay
That's-
Lohan.
Oh,
I know.
God, I just
I
feel like
know.
we didn't say that enough, but also, she's in a Planet Fitness commercial right now.
She is? Good for her.
Yeah.
Is she, like, super in shape?
She's just, like, walking in and out of the Planet Fitness, and they're like, Lindsay loves it, or something dumb, and you're just like, and you're like, she's like, anybody, I'll take anybody's money, and Planet Fitness is like, we get her for 12 minutes? Great. Walk in and out of Planet Fitness and smile.
Lindsay Lohan turned her life around thanks to the running the treadmills at
That's right.
at Planet Fitness.
Anyway, I digress.
I mean, you may already know who we are. This is Dave, and with me are my uncrappy co-hosts.
Tara.
And Adam. The movie that succinctly describes the plot in 2 words because calling it That Time the Moon Almost Hit the Earth would have been too long. It's Roland Emmerich's latest disaster porn, Moonfall.
Wow. So here's how Centropolis Entertainment describes the movie, which, by the way, is the production company of this film. In Moonfall, a mysterious force knocks the moon from its orbit around Earth and sends it hurtling on a collision course with life as we know it. With mere weeks before impact and the world on the brink of annihilation, NASA executive and former astronaut Jo Fowler, played by Halle Barry, is convinced she has the key to saving us all. But only one astronaut from her past, Brian Harper, played by Patrick Wilson, and a conspiracy theorist, Casey Houseman, Game of Thrones' John Bradley, believe her. These unlikely heroes will mount an impossible last-ditch mission into space, leaving behind everyone they love, only to find that they just might have prepared for the wrong mission.
It's Moonfall.
I guess it's Moonfall.
The end of that actually sounds like it's about to dip into like a rom-com. Like they didn't prepare for a mission of the heart. Like it's some weird.
I mean, honestly, with this movie, I felt like there's 3 or 4 times where I was like, oh, we're going to get a new movie now. Oh, wait, no. It's just this.
Nope,
okay.
nope, same movie.
Different
Same movie.
Okay.
I have to say, in that description, the one word that rings the most true about it is impossible. Because from the get-go, everything that happens is impossible.
Literally, the first sentence I wrote in my notes is, the immediate premise of this movie is insane because if the moon ever changes orbit even a little, our planet is like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, we can't survive 3 weeks where the moon's hurtling toward, like, there's no time, like, there's so many things that are just like, blah, 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 blah.
Well, at the end of the movie, at the end of the credits, because Dave and I watched a lot of it, there are like, thanks to our NASA consultants, and they listed people.
Yes.
And I'm going, no way those are actual NASA consultants. My guess is that like 5 of the executive kids had a like student science fair project about NASA due, and they took all of the relevant information for this movie from that high school fair.
Yes.
Not even high school, grade school.
Or the NASA scientists, they're like, okay, what if the moon starts falling? What happens to Earth? And they're like, it's all over. And they're like, yeah, but like, what about like specific things? They're like, I don't know. I guess gravity would be messed up. And then they're like, great, perfect.
Yes, exactly.
We'll use that.
So gravity will pull things into the air.
Right.
Right?
Right.
No, I mean, mean, it would just be a little messed up. Okay, so we're going to put that it pulls stuff into the air.
Yeah, but only in specific spots.
For a specific amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy, I gotta tell you. Okay, there's so much shame here that I'm going to admit. First of all, I do not like Roland Emmerich movies. I have never really liked and I've said this over and over again. We even did the real debate on ID4 where I proved Adam wrong that this is a good movie, that ID4 was a good movie, and I just do not like his movies. But about 4 weeks ago, I was looking for something to watch, and Moonfall was available, and I bought it. I didn't rent it. I bought it. I own this movie now.
But see, Dave, I can't.
Why did you buy it? Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
I was desperate for something here's my thinking. Oh, Roland Emmerich makes a pretty good, fast-clipped movie of ridiculousness. I might as well just watch this. It will be a big kind of blockbuster movie, and there will be action and maybe some humor, and of course a lot of family stuff. And I just wanted something. I wanted a popcorn blockbuster movie, and this kind of fit the bill.
Sure did.
I watched it, and I think it reminds me so much of I Know Who Killed Me, because this movie doesn't give an F about the viewer.
No.
Nor does it give any. It just says, you know what? Take logic and throw it out the window. Don't bother with it, because we are going to show the moon crashing into the earth. We're going to contradict what we even just said in the last scene and have things happen that make no sense. Have fun.
But Dave, I don't blame you for seeing this movie on like your iTunes, you can purchase, and buying it, because look at the talent in the movie. You got Patrick Wilson, Halle Berry, Michael Pena, Donald Sutherland. Like, this is a huge movie. It's gigantic, and you're expecting these people to take whatever dialogue is thrown at them, if you even call what was written dialogue, and improve upon it. But I don't know if they all just showed up after like a 3-week bender in Vegas or what, but like zero effort was put in at all by these actors. They're like, the only one I take that back. The only one who tried was John Bradley from Game of Thrones. He tried. He wasn't great, but he tried. Like, Michael Pena is naturally charming, so he came across as fun. Yeah. But like Halle Berry and Patrick Wilson are like, when does our check clear? All right.
Oh, no, like I feel, Adam, 100%. This movie made tremendous actors look awful, right?
Awful.
Like awful. And I think like Halle Berry was trying. She was trying so hard. Like, there were scenes where like she's supposed to have these deep emotional connections or moments, and you like the camera's on her and you could see it in her eyes, and she's like, act, just make it, act. Oh God, why am I in this movie? But like, I think that like actors like that sign on to this movie because they're like, oh, it's going to be like another, Day After Tomorrow. It's going to be a big blockbuster that's going to make a ton of money. I'm going to make a ton of money. And yeah, like the script I'm given right now isn't great, but they're going to fix it by the time we get to set, surely. This, like, I would say, like, my number one thing about this movie is, like, the script. I would say that, like, 80% of this movie's failure is, like, the most terrible script that's ever been written.
Well, and that's just, I actually have a whole page in my notebook of just one-liners that I wrote down that couldn't have been more typical. So here are a couple of them. Get in line, you work for me.
Yeah.
You just lied to the American people.
Yeah.
Everything we know about nature, the nature of the universe, just went out the window.
Yeah.
Like, I could go on. I'm going to stop.
Yeah, I have a bunch, too. Like, we have to go back to the moon. Okay. What? All right.
It makes you question everything in the sense of, at the very top, they're like, hey, the moon's going out of orbit, and we don't know why. And John Bradley plays Casey Houseman, and he's like this amateur moonologist who...
He's a megastructurist, Dave.
Yeah, megastructurist.
He's a megastructurist. So his theory is that the moon is an alien-built megastructure. It's basically the Death Star up in the sky, covered in a moon-like crust. And, which, by the way, that's how I woke up this morning. And
oh, God.
and,
covered in rocks.
They thought I was dead. So he has this theory that that the moon is maybe purposefully coming out of an orbit, and meanwhile the two astronauts, Jo, who's played by Halle Barry, and what was the other guy's name? It was Patrick Wilson playing Brian.
Yeah.
The most uninteresting
Names ever.
character name ever.
Yeah.
You'd think it would be like Moonshot Pops.
Right.
Moonshot Pops. That sounds like a guy who makes moonshine in the deep woods of Kentucky.
It does. And an astronaut. And so they were out in space when something attacked them.
Right.
And they didn't know what. And NASA tried to cover it up, and we're like, this is all your fault, Brian. And so Brian's disgraced, and Halle, or Jo, his best friend, they say that they're like work spouses.
Yes.
That's my work wife. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to throw you under the bus.
Yep.
I don't think I was passed out. I don't know what happened. Brian's kind of crazy. He has a space loco. And so NASA drives him into disgrace. He loses his wife and his son, and it's like 10 years later, and he's just this like down and out astronaut.
Right.
I don't know where I was going with this, but I felt like I had to set the stage.
I'll help you, Dave. I'll fix what you
Thank
just
you.
did. Because basically I was like, the thing about this movie is the storyline itself isn't even interesting. It's like you have so he's the disgraced astronaut, right, with no hopes, and then you have the like weirdo scientist, like fake scientist or real scientist, we don't really know at this point, who no one will listen to. So of course, like this fake scientist goes to find the down and out astronaut guy, tough on his luck. And they're going to have to team up because they need each other. And I was like, oh my God, seriously? Like, you can't even like twist that storyline a little bit to make it a little bit interesting. It's like, no, because
Nope.
obviously Patrick Wilson will need have to listen to this guy because the moon is coming out of the orbit. And
Yeah.
it's like, and then of course, so Patrick Wilson has this terrible thing happen. And then 10 years later, like his son, he's like obviously divorced and his son won't talk to him. It's like, okay, like immediately boring. Like immediately.
You know what though? If that kid was my son, I'd be glad if he didn't talk to me, because fuck that kid. That kid is like the worst kid in a movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Like
he's the most dour,
Yeah.
Rebellious, just self-pitying moron.
Yeah. Yeah, this kid, his name is Sonny, which, first of all, fuck you. That's a terrible name. Second of all, he gets arrested at the top of the movie because he's driving with a bunch of drugs. And
no, he's on a car chase, Adam.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. He's
But there's
driving.
drugs in the
It's a
car.
high-speed chase because he's got a bunch of drugs in the car. He gets arrested and thrown in jail. Then, I love this fact, Patrick Wilson can't get him out of jail. Michael Pena, the stepfather, can't get him out of jail. So he's stuck in jail while the world starts collapsing, right? Like, society's going nuts because the moon's falling. Meanwhile, Patrick Wilson's trying to call him.
Yeah.
He's trying to call his son.
Yeah.
In jail? Like, how is, and he's like,
Yeah.
I can't get through to my son. I'm like, how would you get through to your son, sir, if the moon was not falling? Do you have a direct line? Like, how? It's just so stupid. I'm sorry.
There's also the same thing where they're in this, so they're the tides are starting to mess up because obviously they would, and so Marina Del Rey is washed out or something wherever they're at. So then Patrick Wilson and the Game of Thrones guy are in this hotel, and by the way, they go to sleep. They're both sleeping
In short robes, very short robes.
But also there's still power and water in this building. That, by the way, the first floor is washed out.
Yeah,
it's flooded.
Yeah.
They barely escape this tidal wave on the stairs of the hotel, and then they're like, what do we do now? Should we try to get help? No. Should we get to the rooftops and signal someone? No. Let's take a nap. Oh, good call. Let's do that.
Oh my God.
Hey there, we'll be right back. And now, back to the show.
From beginning to end, this movie annoyed me because of the lack of, I'm going to call it connective glue that tied the movie together. Meaning, they realized they shot a bunch of scenes and then they didn't have any way to connect the scenes to each other. So they came up with either these crazy expositionary scenes to justify it or the most BS exposition drops. For instance, the number of times people find crucial clues to the plot of this movie on a piece of paper that a cat peed on or that coffee was spilt on.
Yep.
Like the number of times it's like, oh look, thanks for peeing on the picture of Brian Harper, Patrick Wilson's character. I better go talk to him. You know, it's like what it just, and then they have these moments of just like, hey everybody, sit down for a minute. I'm gonna expose about everything that has to do with either the past of my character or the way that space works or the moon or it's just so painful.
Yeah. Going back to like one of the earlier scenes is they go to the observatory, right? Because it's like astronaut day and like there's a bunch of kids who are waiting to hear from an astronaut.
Yes.
So they film like as soon as they pull up to the Griffith Observatory, which is a very famous iconic place here in LA, and I was like, oh my God, how much money did they spend on this movie? Because I know how much it is to just even like try to flirt with filming at the observatory, and I was like, holy crap! And there was a lot of scenes there, and I don't think they built out. I don't think they built out the I think they shot there practically.
No, that was definitely green screen when he pulled up in front of the Griffith.
Oh no, because they didn't have time to get that shot, 100%. But like all the rest of the interior stuff, that I was like, oh, they should have just built this because there's a lot of scenes here. And I was like, no, they didn't. They shot there. They shot there for multiple days. And then I looked. Did you guys look up how much the budget of this movie was?
No. Please tell us.
Let me guess.
Yeah, I was like, let's play
Let's
a
price
guessing
is right
game.
there.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go $210 million.
Okay, I want just a little supporting evidence of like for me, I was like, these locations are crazy.
All right, I'm going to go with, I think that's too high. I'm going to go with 180 million.
Okay, so you're 180 and 210?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you both lost prices right because you're both over. But by the way, it's 150. You guys, $150 million on like what did they? I hope Patrick Wilson and Halle Berry each got 20 million because like literally, what I like even watching it, I was like, what on earth? Like I know that like all the moon stuff and that was very CGI heavy and built sets, but I was like, I cannot believe for a minute that they spent that amount of money on this movie.
I do think I think it looked great. I thought the effects were really good.
Sure. The AI was pretty terrifying. I thought the AI because what happens is the whole reason that the human race is in danger and the moon's coming out of orbit is because there's this AI that is trying to murder the Earth by taking the moon out of orbit. Like that's the whole basic premise. By the way, spoiler alert, the humans that are currently on Earth are actually descendants from like an alien race from 1 million years ago, from 1 million light years away, who invented an AI who basically became self-aware and then, for lack of a better term, decided to murder everybody. And so the humans, the ancient alien solution was to go create another AI, which became self-aware, and use it to, like, save the humanity by sending a megastructure out into the universe. And I'm going, what is... Your logic is terrible. Like, you just burned yourself on a stove, and you're like, damn it, I better boil some water and shove my hand in that. That'll fix it.
Well, the whole idea was they created a second AI to create these arcs to get away from the first AI.
Yeah.
And the first AI, literally, when they flash back to the scene where like an alien child, and it's a human child, wakes up, and the little thing on her desk is the AI is trying to break through this, like, what you'd think is the AI communicator. And all I was thinking was, so Alexa kind of killed this civilization?
Yep. That tracks, though. That tracks. Can I say, by the way,
What?
this AI is pretty fucked up. Like, basically at one point in this movie, it turns into tentacle porn, where, like, these tentacles just, like, embed into these people's faces. And I'm going, is that how an AI kills you? By, like...
Yeah.
Devouring your face and going down your throat and your nose and your ears and your eye. Like, that's horrible. That is atrocious.
And it looked like the AI was made up of a bunch of small metal particles. So it was like, not malleable, but it was a shapeshifter. It could kind of take any shape it wanted.
Right.
Because it was like a swarm of metal,
nanobots.
I think.
Nanobots, yeah.
Nanobots. Okay.
And then
I mean,
aliens...
that's just an acceptable explanation as anything else.
Exactly. For this
Well,
movie.
actually, I was just talking about this not too long ago in a show where I'm like, oh, you know what the solution for every problem in the 90s was? EMP! And so, you know what the solution for this one was? EMP.
Yeah.
But I love because the alien solution to killing the AI was to shoot it with guns.
Yes.
And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. These
No.
tiny nanobots, aren't you supposed to be like a superior race? Like, what the fuck happened?
I mean, like,
Did you not build this with an off button?
Yes.
Wouldn't that been great if it flashed back and they were like, and the guy who tried to hit the off button just barely did it.
Yeah.
right. I mean, there's like the level and the like through line for logic in this movie, as we've said, is like there isn't one, and there's no like whatever. So we go through this whole movie with this idea that the moon is falling, it's out of orbit. We think there's something in the moon because we see in the opening scene that there's this thing that's gone into the moon, but then we don't really address like what is that for like an hour and a half, and then
No.
when we do, it's complicated, but also not unique in any way. That like, oh, our ancestors did this thing, and we're products of our ancestors. It's like, okay. So then this one nanobot thing finds the moon, and it sits there for 10 years, by the way. We've not mentioned that this thing sits in the moon for 10 years.
Right.
And like, so in the explanation and when they flash back, there's like hundreds of thousands of these nanobot creatures, right? But it's like, so only one has found the moon, and it doesn't call to any of the others, or like what? Don't.
The other thing is it seems to want to eradicate humanity.
Right.
And so it goes to the moon and just hangs out.
Yeah, for
It's
10
like,
years.
I'm not going to look down on the planet. And one of the things about it was they get into a spaceship and go up to the moon. This first crew who's going to die goes up to the moon to try and stop it with, I guess, with the, I don't know if they had the EMP. They were
No, they were just
doing
going up to
recon.
investigate. They were just investigating.
And so they're up there, and the thing senses them and attacks it. And the idea we find out later is that, when there's humanity with technology together, like they sense organic beings with technology, they attack it.
Right.
But if it's just humanity, they're like, that doesn't need to be attacked. There's no technology around it. I don't understand why. Now that I'm saying this out loud, it sounds like I'm telling a 3-year-old's dream to you.
I mean, David,
There was a...
Go ahead.
No, that was it. That's all I had.
I was just going to say, I wish that you had been there when they were talking about the script. Say, hey, should we read this out loud before we shoot it?
Look, there's a number of instances in this movie where you just have to suspend your disbelief and not question things. Like, for instance, should we talk about Halle Berry as a lesbian and it's never discussed? Like, it's
But
never.
she's not. She's not in one of the most breathtakingly brilliant poetic lines in this movie. So the openings, like one of the first times we see Halle Berry after she's failed or whatever, she has a son, and then there's this other woman in her home, and like it's early in the morning, and she's like, "What are you doing awake?" And like they don't hug or kiss or anything, and then you're like,
Yeah.
But the lady's like, "I'm going to take care of your son," and so you're like, "Well, is that the nanny? Because that's a weird nanny relationship." But then, like 30 minutes later, she's like, "As a foreign exchange student."
Yeah,
and I was like,
wait,
"What?"
You're like
Well,
35.
yeah,
What are you talking?
I that confused that messed me up too, because I really thought they were lovers.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that was kind of like a very real scene where, like when you get up and you go after you've been, in a relationship for a while and you go to work, it's all kind of like business.
Yeah.
You don't
Well, especially when
do
NASA calls you on your cell
Oh,
phone.
that was my favorite thing.
I love that. So Halle Berry's asleep, and her phone rings, and the caller ID says NASA.
I wrote that
Yeah.
down.
Well, this is something that I think is very fascinating about the evolution of film, and I'm sorry to go back, take a wider viewpoint of this and come out of the movie a little bit, but I think Roland Emmerich suffers from this quite a bit, which is the modern movie-going audience is so used to film shorthand,
Right.
where it's just like a little shot will give you a lot of information, that he uses it to such an extent to take you so far out onto the ledge, like you're beyond the ledge of logic, and you're just kind of guided along by the nose with these like shorthand things, like, oh, they wake up together, they must be lovers. Oh,
Right.
I don't know. I sputtered out again. I'm sorry, guys. This movie's logic is so frail that I can't even discuss it.
It's like like Dave has been wound up twice, and then I'm
know!
watching him, and you're just like, he's like boop boop boop. It's like exactly what like this movie is like. I feel like it started with two premises, and they're like, let's make a movie about it. One is, what if the Earth and the Moon collided? Which, by the way,
Yes.
is an interesting this is an interesting premise. I'm like, cool. What would happen? Like what would the consequences be? By the way, if the Moon got that close to the Earth as it did, it's all over. Like
Right.
I just, and also there's no explanation because, by the way, sorry, Moon comes down, Moon goes back up. But like, what? How does the Moon go back up, and why? And like, what now? But anyways, and then the second premise is like, yeah, what if your Alexa tried to kill you? So that's like,
Right.
I feel like that's the two questions this movie started with.
Yes.
And by the way, is basically like, yeah, we get that from the beginning. Like, and we get that when you introduce like, okay, this is right. So tell me something more interesting about this struggle for anything.
Well, it's interesting because, again, Roland Emmerich likes to destroy iconic locations.
Sure.
And very well known for that, to the point of satire, I think, to the point of parody.
Yes.
And in this one, not one iconic location. You never see the White House get flooded. You never see New York City crumble. You never see London Bridge.
You see London.
The one time.
You get to see New York destroyed. New York gets destroyed because the moon's coming down, and you see like the buildings get exploded on Manhattan. I will say that does occur,
Yes.
but otherwise, I do agree with you that like some of those tropes like just went out the window. Now, some of his other tropes, like nature being a bitch for no apparent reason, remain. Like for instance, nature killed Michael Pena. No reason to die. He had no reason to die. I swear to God, the premise is that as the moon gets closer, oxygen starts dissipating, right? So, like, you don't have enough to breathe. So, they go to the fire station. Everybody grabs a bunch of oxygen tanks. They all put them on their back. You know, this is like Michael Pena, the family, whatever. They start hiking into the woods to try and get into a tunnel or something. Anyway, they get there, and Michael Pena's daughter starts running out of oxygen. So what does Michael Pena do? He does that really dramatic father thing where he like, here, you take my mask. I'm just going to sit down for a second, honey. I'll catch up. And then the daughter, you know, for some reason, by the way, they're like half a mile behind everybody else. Doesn't matter. The daughter eventually gets to the tunnel, at which point everybody's like, where's your father? They take off their masks to yell for Michael Pena. Yeah. Stupid idea. And they go, oh, never mind. The oxygen's back.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
just in time.
By the way, he just died.
Why'd you kill Michael Pena? He saved you with his awesome Lexus.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Lexus is saving the day here. Nice product placement, Lexus.
Yeah. Very subtle.
Very
What
subtle.
amazes me about the Michael Pena death scene is even scuba divers where one person loses oxygen, knows to share the oxygen.
Yes.
You didn't need to just put it on the girl and die. You just here's a breath for you. Here's a breath for me.
Yeah.
Here's a breath for you.
Just keep walking.
Here's a breath for me. End of story.
Also, why did the little girl use up her oxygen faster than Michael Pena, a grown-ass man, use up his oxygen? Like, was she singing Broadway show tunes the whole time? Like, into her mask?
She was
like,
hyperventilating.
Yeah. Constantly hyperventilating.
I just feel like look, I happen to love these kind of disaster movies.
Me
like,
too.
Like
Me too.
most people do, because you know what? It's a summer blockbuster. You're like, oh, that's crazy. Look at the Eiffel Tower explode. Like, there is just something like fun to see, like how they do that, and kind of neat. But what we really lacked in this movie is even the opening scene dialogue was stupid and terrible. Like, so I never cared about any of these characters because there's nothing, you don't know what they're after. Like, Halle Berry immediately turns on her partner, and then like Patrick Wilson is just like, he's not believed, so he shuts down, divorces his wife, and doesn't talk to his son. And you're just like, okay, but like I don't connect to any of this.
Well, also, you know, Tara, jumping off what you just said, the two biggest relationships in the movie are the Halle Berry Patrick Wilson relationship, and I'd say the Patrick Wilson and his family relationship.
Yes.
And you don't spend any time with either of them at the beginning of the movie.
No.
You just sit there and go, Halle Berry's in a cockpit, and then Patrick Wilson makes a joke about Toto's Africa.
Yes.
And then you cut to like 6 months later, and Patrick Wilson's trying to argue in front of the NASA NASA board of, whatever.
Directors.
Yeah, directors, thank you. And his wife's like, let's go, son. We're leaving this asshole. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
and you're like, and these are the relationships we're supposed to, like, get invested in? And it doesn't make any sense.
I think what's amazing about Roland Emmerich is he somehow has, from the very beginning, from his first movie, Stargate, I called it the Roland Emmerich curse, which makes a great trailer, terrible movie.
Sure.
And I think what he does so well is he gets these phenomenal actors to put on terrible lines and terrible stories, but they sell it somehow in a way that is incongruent to normal good movie making procedure. And for some reason, everyone wants to be a part of it, and they all buy into it. But then you watch for like 10 minutes, and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. For example, there's a scene where someone's trapped under a tree, and it's a big tree. Sonny is trapped under a tree, and the nanny comes out to help him, and she
Foreign
goes,
exchange student, Dave.
Lover.
But she's also the
She's
nanny.
her lover.
She's not Halle Berry's lover. They don't even ever touch. They don't even hug.
Because
Sorry,
they're trying to get this into the Chinese market, and there's no homosexuality in the Chinese market.
okay, keep going.
And so the girl says, don't worry, we'll get you out of here. The moon's gonna help us.
Yes.
And then the moon passes over. Literally, like, I don't know, 100 feet up in the air, 200 feet in the air. It was like, Adam and I were watching it together, and I go, I think that's about the height of an airplane flying, like a low airplane. So it passes over, and the moon pulls the tree up and releases Sonny. How? Without killing them all.
Well, first of all, why the tree, a giant oak tree, is on top of his chest? How is he not dead? Like,
How
he
is
should
he
just be
not
dead.
But, yeah.
But not only how is he not dead, also, like, so if the moon could pull the tree, how come it doesn't pull them?
Right?
Like, how come it doesn't pull them
Yes,
up? As,
why
like,
doesn't it
why
pull
isn't
them?
it, like, everything being pulled? I think this movie is a victim of, listen, in the late 90s, in the 2000s, especially when CG wasn't as it wasn't as popular to, like, this extent, because it was expensive, right? Like, it was $150 million to make this movie in the 2000s. And it was spectacle, and audiences had not seen it. So I think you could forgive a little bit more because the premises were like, what if aliens came down actually and decided to start destroying Earth, right? And you make it like the most realistic thing. And that like the characters have actual stakes. And so I think on one hand, this kind of, if you're gonna make a disaster movie like this, we need it to be more nuanced, more interesting. Like we can't have stock characters. And I think the other thing that this movie that I kept going, why are they doing this? Is like everybody on the planet can see problem. The moon is falling, okay? And yet all our main characters are they're only like, Halle Berry is talking to the other director of NASA. He's like, I gotta get the hell out of here. And she's like, no, we gotta save everybody. He's like, you want my job? Like, here's my job. And I'm like, why are you, like, everybody starts to fight about petty things that you literally would not even think about if the moon was 3 weeks away from destroying the planet.
But that's just it. Like, the stakes are super weird in this movie. So
Yes.
as the Sonny and the family is trying to make its way to a safe place, you're seeing giant rocks fall out of the sky and hit mountains and explode. And no word of a lie, Sonny and the Asian nanny watched this rock hit a mountain, level the mountain, and they're like, well, we should keep going. Like,
every line is delivered with kind of a, well, that happened.
Yeah, exactly. There's this moment where this is one of the things that drove me the most nuts in the movie. So they're trying to launch a shuttle into space, right? They're trying to use an old shuttle, and they got a whole ground crew there with everybody. And I guess the coolant's leaking out of one of the engines, which, by the way, is like very, very like standard car stuff. Like, Patrick Wilson's actually working on a Ford Mustang earlier in the movie, which he never drives and we never see again. So I kind of expected him to be like, put some duct tape on it. I do it all the time with my Shelby. But he didn't. Not the point. So they go, okay, well, the coolant's leaking out of this engine. We can't launch the rocket. Everybody go home. And
Yes, and Halle Berry makes this anti-ID4 speech,
right?
You know, where ID4 was like, "This is our day of independence." This one was like, "Well, we failed.
Yeah.
So everyone go home.
Yeah,
and
good
they're
luck.
literally boarding the plane
Yes.
within seconds of her announcement.
Yep. Yeah, everybody's like, well, bummer for Earth. Gotta go be
Yep,
with my
yeah.
mom. It's like,
So-
what? No,
so-
everybody would be like, what are you talking about, Halle Berry? You're a terrible director of NASA. You have to get the fuck up there.
So everybody goes home. Everybody gets on a plane, goes home, except for like Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, 2 nerds in the office, and
Yeah.
Game of Thrones guy. And Halle Berry goes, wait, like 20 minutes later, wait,
Yeah.
what if we fly it with only 2 engines?
Yeah.
At which
Well,
point Patrick Wilson's like, that's so crazy it might work. And then all this ground crew shows up. Did you guys
Yes.
notice that?
There
Like,
was
all
one
these
guy, he's
people-
like, you guys, we have to go now. I'm like, wait, I thought you went home. Wait,
I thought
why did
everybody went home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, that was
ooh.
to get rid of the other pilots so that they can get
Right.
John Bradley onto the ship, like
Right.
work it, like everything in the movie. I swear to God, I bet Roland Emmerich was like, "No, we have to get rid of those. We have to get Casey Houseman up in space." Yeah, but that's impossible. I mean, we have these other pilots, and he's
Yeah.
not qualified, and he would never survive the exit
Right.
into orbit. No, get him there. Okay,
Yeah.
what if Halle Berry makes a speech and everyone goes home? Perfect.
Great,
Let's
fine.
put that
Perfect.
down.
Well, the
Yeah.
same thing happened with the nuclear weapons. Like, there's supposed to be this moment.
Yes.
So what's happening
Yes.
is Halle Berry wants to go and fight the robot, and her ex-husband is like the
general.
Secretary of Defense or something like that. And he's
Yeah.
like, we're gonna nuke the moon, and which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter. We're gonna nuke the moon. That's their plan. And Halle Berry's like, wait, don't nuke the moon yet. Let me go try and save it. And so the moon gets to be like airplane level with the Earth.
Yes.
And
it's tearing through the
yeah,
atmosphere.
and the generals in the bunker where Halle Berry's ex-husband is are like, "Oh, we gotta nuke it. All right, put your key in the majig
Yep.
and turn it." And her husband goes, "No, because I believe in my ex-wife." Meanwhile, he's surrounded by like 50 dudes, like
Yeah.
all
Yeah, all
military
army.
folk. So he grabs a handgun and goes, "Don't back up, you guys, all 50 of you.
Yeah.
I know the world's about to end, but I believe in my ex-wife." So they're going, "Shoot him!"
Yeah, shoot him. The moon is the moon is right outside our window. I feel like she's failed, right? And there's no way for me to know that she hasn't failed. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah. And what's amazing about that moment, and I totally kind of missed this the first time I watched this movie twice, people.
wait, why?
In 3 or 4 weeks, I've watched it twice.
Oh,
Because I watched it the
God.
first time I bought it, and then watched it again with Adam yesterday.
I can't believe you watched it once and then said we should watch it.
Oh, this is like amazing to me. Because it is so far, it is so crazy. But what I missed the first time watching it was at the end, after they saved right before they stopped the moon from crashing into the earth, a large boulder hits the army base, and they all die.
Yeah, that's right.
Every single one in the army base dies. And I was like, oh, they don't even get to see that the guy was right, that the wife saved the planet.
Well,
You know,
and
that seems to me to be like what they should have seen. It's like, oh, we don't have to shoot off the nukes now. Yay! And everyone in the army base is going, yay!
Well,
and we didn't get that scene.
I didn't understand why they decided to kill like the 2 male love interests for the women in the movie. They decided to kill Halle
That's right,
Berry's
they did.
ex-husband, and they decided to kill
Michael Pena.
Patrick Wilson's wife's new husband.
Right.
And then, but there wasn't like that moment of reconciliation. Like in Independence Day, there's that
What?
moment at the end where Will Smith
Yes.
and what's his name there, Jeff Goldblum show up, and their wives and ex-wives like jump into their arms, and you saved us
Yes.
all, and we love
Yeah.
each other again. They didn't have that moment. Like if the nanny had like grabbed Halle Berry and kissed her at the end of this film, I would have been like, yay!
Well, yeah, you're right. There's no family reunification. There's
No.
I feel like there's an implied one between Joe and Brian that their work spouse designation has now matured into like an actual romantic kind of thing, but there's no proof of that. So
No.
really what happens is, in a way, Brian ends the movie with now 2 wives and 2 families.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Game of Thrones is stuck up in the moon as a sentient AI, and they're setting up a sequel to the film.
Yeah.
And Dave brought up an excellent point. So the moon almost crashes into Earth, which causes all of the debris that's covering the metal shell to dissipate.
Right.
And so you're staring at the Death Star.
Yes.
You're staring at
Yes,
the Death
literally.
Star in orbit, and I made a joke. I'm like, all of Florida, please don't shoot your guns at the Death Star. We know how scary it looks. We promise the neutrino cannon is not online. Just relax.
I like how every line that is said with so much confidence that you can't argue it.
Right.
It's just like,
You're like, okay.
this is what we have to do.
It's like, okay.
I don't think we can do that. This is what we have to do. Okay, let's do it.
Well, yeah,
Right.
and again, they backtrack on themselves so many times. Like, there's this moment when they're in the shuttle and they've turned off all the electronics, but it's still, the robot is still registering the fact that they have a remote detonator. So Patrick Wilson smashes the remote detonator right before the aliens get there. The alien AI goes, okay, there's no human/electronics, I'm out. And then not 20 minutes later, they grab the same remote and use it to make the bomb explode.
Yeah.
I go, you just broke the remote. Like, there's not even that moment where they're like, we better fix the remote. Nope. They're just like, oh, still works.
Don't need it.
No, Adam. You've tracked it wrong. The aliens had a new fresh EMP with a fresh detonator.
No,
and
it
they
still
gave-
had the cracked screen.
Just before that,
Oh,
they
did it?
had...
Yeah,
Yeah.
that cracked
Yeah.
screen.
I think that thing, by the way, the way that Patrick Wilson smashed it, it wouldn't just have a crack. That thing was like pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like crack screen.
Nothing in this movie has an off button.
Right.
That's also
Guys,
true.
humanity needs to build off buttons for electronic things.
Roland Emmerich
Yeah.
needs an off
That's the
button.
moral of the story.
Yeah, I just
God.
it's like I wrote like some of my notes just got like I was like they just got worse. I was like, okay, oh my god, this is the dumbest. It's getting worse. I can't. I need a nap. Like I want to claw my eyes out. Like it's just like there's just because
I need to pick up chicken, lettuce.
I also wrote I cannot imagine having to say some of these lines.
Mm. Oh, boy.
Like that's work. Like they were working.
All right, should we rate this thing?
Yeah, let's rate it.
Let's rate
Okay,
it.
so we have a 3-tiered rating system here at Cinema Craptacular. The top tier is Cinema Craptacular. This is a must watch. The second tier is Craptaculous. You know, this is pretty good on a Sunday afternoon. And the third tier is utter crap. Avoid this movie with all your avoidance powers.
I'll go first. Happy to do it. This is far and away for a variety of reasons, and mostly because I cannot believe they spent $150 million on it. This is utter crap. This is unambiguously a terrible film that just makes me madder. Look, if you want a disaster movie, go watch Armageddon again. Go watch Independence Day. Because you know what you get out of those movies? Like the spectacularness of like a crazy event, but also it's kind of fun, and there's people you're watching that you're actually interested and invested in.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm going to double down on Tara's rating of absolute crap. Like every fiber of me wanted to like this movie because, like Tara, I'm a Roland Emmerich fan. I love those disaster movies. I think they're dumb and fun. But see, that's just it. I think that's what it missed. There was no fun.
Right.
There was no comedy. There was no Will Smith one-liners. There was no Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck dynamic. Like you didn't have that element of comedy to make you forget all the stupidity of the actual film. So instead, you know, the guy who's trying the hardest again was John Bradley from Game of Thrones, and his lines were so bad he couldn't even make them funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolute crap. Absolute crap.
I forgot, like, there was one joke that almost saved this movie. It was the only joke in the whole movie, and that was the name of John Bradley's cat, which was Fuzz Aldrin.
Which yes, I will admit that was a solid reference, solid joke. Yeah.
I had high hopes after that happened. I was like, oh, okay, we're going to get a funny movie. Nope, that was the best thing of the whole movie.
Yeah. Anytime a cat's in a movie, it notches it up a little bit for you, Tara.
Yeah, but it was a good name, Fuzz Aldrin. That's
Okay.
funny.
It's a great name.
Please forgive me.
Oh, no.
I'm going to say Craptaculous. I'm going to say it's
Really?
fine on a Sunday afternoon. I don't know why. I don't know how I turned a corner on Roland Emmerich. I don't know what, because I really do I think his movies are overrated. I think this one was kind of like, you know what? I just don't give a fuck anymore. I'm not going to try to be good. I'm just going to be ridiculous.
You fought
And
me vehemently about Independence
did!
Day. Like,
I
you
did!
hate Independence Day, but this movie's okay?
Yeah, Dave, what?
You know why it is? It's because there's no, like, Independence Day has this layer of credulity, this layer of, like, please take me seriously. And this Moonfall does not have that pretentious layer at all. This is just pure, like, I don't know, let's do this. Okay, sounds like fun.
World doesn't make sense anymore, everybody. Just
There are
Yeah.
no rules in this movie.
the moon's coming towards the earth. Just
Yeah,
fold it up.
for like weird ancient alien reasons, and also the only reason humans exist. Like what, Dave?
Dave, whatever.
I mean,
I know, I've disappointed everybody.
Seriously. Except Roland. Roland's very thankful.
he's thrilled. He's thrilled.
Which goes back to what I said in I Know Who Killed Me is Roland was the name of my nom de plume in high school. Thanks for joining us on this B-Sides Cinema Craptacular's journey. This is Dave, and ever present with me are...
Tara.
And Adam.
And don't avoid that pile of crap. Dive right in, because you never know what you just might find.
You sure know Dave loves dialing into piles of crap.
Yeah.
Dave lives in a pile of crap.
I do.
Thanks again for joining us on our Cinema Craptaculous Presents B-Sides Journey. Subscribe to Cinema Craptaculous on iTunes or Spotify. And if you weren't totally offended, or even if you were, please rate us on iTunes. It helps us get the Craptaculous word out there. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @Craptaculous.